you don't necessarily need to love the topic. I don't love cats, but I need to love the cat people in order to have my business be about cats. If you don't love them, then you need to work on that first before you take that next step forward, because your audience is going to feel that you're not there for them. They're going to feel that you've got your best interest in heart instead of trying to help them become better people and help them connect to others and help them have a smile in their day.
In Napoleon Hill's timeless classic, Think and Grow Rich, he defines a mastermind group as the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. In this podcast, that coordination is created between you, me, and our amazing guests. Our definite purpose is achieving extraordinary results in your business and your life. I'm your host, Brad Mulvey. Welcome to the Millennial Mastermind Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Millennial Mastermind Podcast, the show for entrepreneurial millennials looking for the tools, tactics, and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Rachel Miller. Rachel's entrepreneurial journey began when she started blogging during maternity leave and while raising her children. That little blog evolved into a series of blogs and sites, reaching millions of page views. She's gone on to speak to crowds and thousands, write a book selling over 100,000 copies, appeared on Good Morning America, and has built multiple websites with six-figure annual earnings. Now she's teaching others how to build audiences and monetize their own sites. So Rachel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brad. It always feels weird when somebody reads those because I'm like, who is that person?
Well, it's the highlight reel, and I'm excited to dive into some of those things because I know when you hear it from a high level, even for yourself, it sounds kind of crazy, but I think the gems are when we go through each of those bullet points and dig into the fun that encompassed each of them.
Yeah, and it comes with a lot of failures. So whenever people hear, wait a minute, she has a bestseller book that sold 100,000 copies, what you don't know was that we had pitched that book like 5 times before we got somebody to sell it, before we got a publisher for it. So you could say I had 4 failures. Does that make sense? That led to that book. And then I actually wrote another book after that, and it wasn't a bestseller. So it's also one of those things. There's a lot more to a story than just the highlight reel, and I can't wait to tell your audience about that.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I do think that there is such an issue like within these interview style podcasts of survivor bias where we only hear the stories of the good and you think that, like there's been no issues either in this person's journey or somebody else's journey who's done something similar. So I love diving into some of those hardships that had to be overcome because every overnight success actually has probably 10 years of struggle, failure, effort behind it. And there's no real true thing as an overnight success. So I'm glad you mentioned that early. And that will just be a good reminder to me to make sure that we touch on those points throughout our conversation. And
I want your audience to know that if a mom of 6 kids can build a business, they can build a business too. If somebody who, didn't have an education in this, I was just a school teacher. If I can pivot my career into something that I love, they can too. So that would be my take from it. Because when you hear those things, you're like, well, I can't write a big book. I can't do all that. But you can take one step forward from where you are. And if you keep taking one step forward, it's ridiculous the mountains you can climb. So yeah.
Well, that's an awesome segue into my first question of just touching on the early days when you're getting started. So in the intro, I mentioned that you started this blog. It was shortly after you had a child, you're raising your kids. Can you just take us back to what that point of your life looked like? What was that blog about, first of all? And how were you juggling all these different things?
Oh, it was kind of crazy. I was on maternity leave and I found out I was pregnant. And you can't really work at that point. Especially, I was a high school teacher in Texas, and Texas no area in public schools pays their teachers exceptionally well, but I could not afford daycare for 2 kids. So that was pretty much the end of me teaching. And it was just, I keep saying but that's one of those, because you're like, it's like a heavy word, the word that you put in the middle when you're like, this is heavy feeling, Okay, so imagine that I'm like carrying this big burden. I went from teaching in a public school. I loved it because I was with people, I was talking, I was using my brain. And then all of a sudden I've got 2 infants and they don't talk. And that was that. So I needed something to use my head. So I was trying to, and I needed income because we needed just a couple hundred to pad the budget a little bit and take some of the pressure off. So I started like doing content writing for businesses. I started writing website copy. I started writing manuals. I don't remember how I got that one, but I got like tech manuals where a company was in Japan and they would write the manuals on how to like use this product. And it was written in like an English version of Japanese, if that makes sense. So I would rewrite it as a mom would read it. So it was like making it intelligent, but it was boring as all get out. No one reads those package inserts that tell you how to use whatever it is. It's an alarm clock, you turn it on and you just push some buttons until it works. So anyways, so that was it didn't fill my heart, if that makes sense. It paid the bills, but didn't, make me happy. And so I was basically complaining about it to my husband, and he comes on and he's like, you know what? I hear girls do blogs. Looking back, I'm like, oh my word, I can't believe we like had this conversation. He's like, I think you need a website. So he literally bought me the website. He came home with PHP book and a CSS book because we didn't really have like tutorials at the time online. Came home with the books and he's like, I think you need a website. So let's get your website. So we went on GoDaddy and we picked a domain name out. What would you going to call your website? And I called it Quirky Mama, and I misspelled the word mama. It's spelled M-O-M-M-A. No one spells mama that way. That shows you how much thought I put into this, guys. Quirky Mama, and then
I love it.
That site took off. It was crazy. We got it to 10 million page views in a month. That was at its high point in traffic. We also got it to 2.2 million Facebook fans, to 200,000 fans on Pinterest, to several tens of thousands on YouTube at the time. I think we got over 100,000 on Instagram. It was insane, the growth that happened on that site. And then you get that, there's that again. Okay, there's that heavy word. You're like, I got tired of, I've got 6 kids now, and I'm paid to basically play with Play-Doh all day and talk about kids' activities, which sounds great until you're really, really tired of Play-Doh and you're really tired of glitter and you don't want to cook anymore, ever, and you really don't care anything about your site. So when there's a point, and I realize that this comes, I see this as a cycle almost in my life, in my business. Like, you like your life and you love your life. And then there's a point where it just doesn't fit anymore. It's kind of like those jeans that they just don't, that you don't like them anymore. They were your favorite. You wore them for 2 years straight. And now you're like, they have holes in all the perfect places and it's well worn and they're comfy. And then you're like, this is just too comfortable. Get those away from me. So it got to be like that with my business. And so once I stopped liking it, I needed to pivot. And that is super scary. And my guess is a lot of your audience might be there too, where they have a career that they're really good at. They have a gift that they have. They have something that they're doing that they're good at, but they know they have something more they're supposed to do. And they might not even know what that more is yet, but it's there and it's looming. Yes. And it's that and it's heavy and you're ready for that thing. So so I started a new website, and then I started another website.
And one thing I want to call out there, if you wouldn't mind, and I could just jump in real quick. The other thing I want to mention about that I love is that the first thing you did was got started with a blog that you weren't even spelling the name right, and it was just that step and being able to throw yourself into that. And sure, you had to pivot down the road, but it got you some experience. You learned how to grow an audience. You learned how to develop content. So I think it's so important that you got started, even if that wasn't the end all be all.
And just, that was $1 million business. It's a huge website that's massive, but even something that's a success, you can get really tired of it. So I built that one, and I learned a lot of skills by doing it, creating the content.
Well, sorry for interrupting there. So please continue.
Oh, yeah. You interrupt away. I love interruptions. Actually, I'm like one of those people that like thrives on the back and forth. So I built Quirky Mom, but then I went on and I built One Crazy House. And then I started speaking at conferences, not to like build a personal brand, but mostly just because you get to a certain point where you have like a need inside to tell other people how to help their businesses. So I went to conferences to tell them how I built my websites. And one of the conferences, someone in the audience was talking in the bathroom to another girl and said, you know what, this is something that Rachel did. Don't feel bad. The girl was saying, oh, I can't grow a site like this. I don't know SEO. She makes it look so easy. How did she? And the girl said to her, don't worry about that. Rachel's a rah-rah speech. Basically, know that she had a big budget. She had a lot of backing. She's Quirky Mama, for crying out loud. Of course she can build this because she has all this other stuff that's like these tools that she can use to build this business. So of course her second business is going to be a success out the gate. We can't be like that, but that's okay. We're going to listen to this like a rah-rah speech. And I was crushed. I mean, I left that bathroom. She left and she didn't even know I was listening to her. And I left that bathroom, though, absolutely crushed because I realized I hadn't showed them that they could do it. It was more like, hey, this is like the highlight reel of Rachel's life instead of the highlight reel that could be my life. So I went home and I told my husband, like, this was a failure. I'm never speaking again. And he knows I love speaking. And I've never, just like he did with the first site, he's like, okay, here's the deal. You're going to do this again, but this time, what limitations, what are those things that person would say she could do? So she wouldn't have a big site to share her content. So you're not allowed to have a big site to share your content. So let's take that one. So what's a site that you could create without having like all these resources that you have, without a big budget, without sites to share, without, knowing how to do the content? What are some sites you could create? So the first one was cats. And that started as a joke, kind of like, well, anybody who can make cats go viral. So I made cats go viral and built a cat website. And then I thought of something that's really boring. I was like, if cats are easy, what's something that's hard to build? And so I went on and built a crockpot site. So now I have 5 websites. I actually went on to build a 6th website. That was a Shopify dropship store. And I actually had a makeup site too, but the makeup site was a disaster. So I had 7 websites at this time that were growing and were successful. And other than the makeup one, most of them were profitable. And the makeup one was so I think we were making like $2,000, $3,000 a month. It was not like super profitable, but it was something. And so I went and I had these sites and they're up and they're running and they're on autopilot. And now I'm bored again. And I went to 100 people and said, do you want me to teach you how I've grown these websites, how I've grown audiences, that I've pivoted into selling products, and how I've got this drop shipping store and I've got 7 private label products and I've got books I've written. Do you want to do this too? And it asked 100 people. They say don't launch products on holidays. So like Memorial Day, Christmas, say Halloween. I asked them on Halloween and they were all out trick-or-treating. And amazingly, 47 of them read my email and said yes right then. And Moolah was born and it was crazy. And so that's the journey from where I was from when I was 21, 23 to where I am today, running a large business and shocking myself every day being on podcasts like this one. So thank you.
That's so cool. And the fact that you were able to run 7 of these websites at one point in time just goes to show that once you get something up and running, you can really systematize it and do this over and over again. So obviously you've been successful with this. You've taken sites about cats and crockpots and so many other things and made them and grown huge audiences. So as somebody who's listening, and frankly myself, for us, what are some of your tips on as you're starting a new site or trying to grow your audience? Are there things that are kind of universal truths or specific tactics that you used across the board with these that you'd be able to share to help stand out from the crowd and attract an audience?
Definitely. The first one needs to be it's like kind of a twofold. You need to love people. So you don't necessarily need to love the topic. I don't love cats, but I need to love the cat people in order to have my business be about cats. So if you're one of those people who doesn't love people, your audience annoys you, the topic that you have and the people that are in it, just, you don't love them. if you don't love them, then you need to work on that first before you take that next step forward, because your audience is going to feel that you're not there for them. They're going to feel that you've got your best interest in heart instead of trying to help them become better people and help them connect to others and help them have a smile in their day. So first off is loving people even over your own product. And then the second one is to love your product, or to hire someone who loves that product to be your partner of sorts. So for me with Quirky Mama, when I stopped loving the product, I needed to get out of that business, right? So the cat one, I knew that. So I brought on someone quickly in the process who loved cats, who could kind of be my second. So she could love the cats for me when I was not a cat person. So those would be my first two tips. Is to start by loving your audience and loving the content. And then after that, I want you to think of what you can pivot into. So my first site was about kids' activities. Well, there's a point in time where you're going to outgrow kids' activities. So if I didn't have a plan for when I'm sick of kids' activities, what am I going to do? Then I need to come up with a different product, right? A different niche, a different topic. So my thing is, when you're picking your topic, to find something that has 100,000 people in it, if possible, has money in it. So it's something that you'll be able to sell a product for it. And also is something that you can grow into and see yourself doing for a while. So I have had friends, I'm thinking of one off the top of my head. She's a great gal. She's got kids who love soccer, but her kids are, say, 14 and they're soccer-aholics. Max, she has 4 years of playing soccer with her kids and 4 years of doing soccer games. That's assuming her kids play soccer the whole time and don't wake up in 3 weeks and say, Mom, I'm done, or break their leg and they can't play soccer anymore. So assuming that she's only got 4 years of soccer, does she really want to make a soccer mom blog when she's limited on her scope of how much she can invest into this blog? So it takes a year roughly to build up your website. So she spends a year building it up, and then she's only got that business for 2 years before she's got to start closing it down. So I want you to think of the long term. Me thinking about Play-Doh, well, that's great when my kids are preschoolers. But when my kids start getting into elementary school and they're like, Mom, do I really have to have Play-Doh again? Mom, I don't want to do Play-Doh. I want to go play computer games. So-and-so's playing Fortnite. So I'm not cool anymore playing Play-Doh. I need to move on. So it became a fight with my kids to get them to do the kids' activities. And it became really a fight with me because I didn't plan for pivoting my content for the future. So I learned my lessons, right? I wasn't going to box myself with the next site. So with One Crazy House, I made it about all home DIY stuff. So that's home, how to clean your carpets, how to replace your garbage disposal, what type of vacuum you need, the fastest way to clean your garage, how to, get rid of debt or pay for a vacation, anything about home life. And so that was a lot easier to create because, well, what I'm going to like today is going to be a different home thing than I'm going to like in 3 years. So that was an easy site to grow into. So love yourself, love your topic, love the people, and then pick a topic that you could have 100,000 people in it. So you're not going to pick something that no one likes, if that's too obscure. And then also niche down. You have to pick a niche. You can't be everything to everyone. And my last tip would be to pick something that you can pivot into as you grow.
I love that. I think that gives a great baseline to where to start and how to think about if your topic and your audience is the right one. I know you also talk about going viral and how to really create content that a lot of people are going to be attracted to. So when people are thinking about trying to create something that's really going to draw in a big audience, whether that's a single video, podcast episode, post, should the goal be to go viral with it? Is that a starting point, or is that just the result of a well-executed piece of content?
Well, it's interesting because virals are awesome and I absolutely adore them. But viral is essentially proof that you have an engaged audience that loves you back. So if you've created content that loves your audience and builds them up, makes them look good, makes them feel good, improves their lives, then they're going to respond to that. And as they respond to that, that becomes a viral. Now, it's actually, virals are kind of a two-edged sword. So you can have a viral that can actually hurt your business too. So while they are proof that you've nailed the engagement, you can also hurt your business because you can bring on people with a viral that aren't your perfect customer. So thinking for me of like my DIY home site, I want to bring in people who are able to purchase home appliances and home things through my website. So I sell vacuum cleaners, I sell like mopping systems, I sell home insurance actually. So we sell a lot of different things on the site. I want to bring people that will buy those things, right? Mm-hmm. If I do a viral about being dorky with your kids and I bring in people about coming to me for kid stuff and not coming to me to fix their vacuum cleaner and then buy the new one, then I'm attracting the wrong audience, right? I want to only attract people that will be my future customers. So on my cat site, I don't want to attract dog lovers. I only want to attract cat lovers. Now there's a lot of viral cat lovers, but let's say you're a realtor in a small town America. You don't want to have a viral that's seen by hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. You only want your content to get engagement in your local area so the people there know and love you as a realtor and know that you have their back should they need a new house, right? So you don't want a true viral. So ultimately, what we all want isn't a viral. What we really want is an engaged audience that's accurate and a targeted and the right audience for us and for our products.
That makes a lot of sense. So when you see people who are starting out or even who have had a website for years and are still looking to grow their audience and grow their business, what is the biggest mistake that you see people making?
Talking about themselves. There's so many businesses that start by talking about who they are and what their product's benefits are before talking about who their customers are. So your customers want to talk about themselves. If we can tell our customer's story, I love that quote by Ryan Deiss of Digital Marketer. I wish I could remember it word for word. But essentially, if we tell our customers stories, we capture their hearts for life. So if we can pivot, make our product something that says, my customers, all of that. So think of like Tiffany. The person wearing Tiffany, they're saying, I am this type of person, right? I am this awesome stuff because I have this product. We can do the same thing even when we're not Tiffany, using our pages, using our social, using our content to position our audience as the awesome people they are. So we want to feature our audience in who they are and how to make them look and feel amazing, right? And then that means that our content's going to be content that says, who are you? Tell me who you are. We're going to have conversations with them. We're going to literally talk back to them when they leave a comment. We're not going to just let a comment sit on our page. We're going to have an engagement around that content. So Facebook says that when people have a back and forth interaction, that's more meaningful to that person. So they see that person's had a back and forth. So they see that this content's going to be more important next time when you post because they've had that previous engagement. So we can almost manufacture that by talking to our audience and talking for our audience instead of using our posts about us. So an example of this would be one of my clients. She has changed, but there was a time when she had a dresser and she's a furniture painter and she does like modern deco painting. And so she had magenta on the bottom and teal on the top. And so she kind of like had this like really cool art form that she like did on this dresser to meld the two colors together. It was really cool looking. So she's on there and saying this furniture was built in this time. It's this color. What color would you put? Would you change the color? Is teal your color? So she's there. She's making conversations, but it's all about the piece of work, right? Instead of saying, holy heck, where would you put this? This is so crazy. Where would you put this in your house? That's going to get them to talk to you instead of talking about the furniture. Does that make sense? It's like a little nuance. You're still featuring the furniture that's neon pink and teal, but you're saying it in a way that's not talking about the furniture. You're talking about your audience.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something, even with my own content that I saw, making a huge mistake with early on of just talking so much about me, not thinking about who the listeners are, who is actually benefiting from this, and why I started this whole thing in the beginning, which was to help people grow. And when I was doing that, the engagement levels were so much lower. People weren't trying to interact because they didn't care. They want to nobody wants to come on and hear somebody talk about themselves. They want to learn things that they can apply to their own lives, especially in a personal development space.
I will take it even one step farther.
Please do.
I think that they don't necessarily want to improve their lives. They want to show their lives as awesome.
Yes.
So when our audience, they're commenting on Facebook, they're not commenting on a post that's going to make them look bad. So if you're, say, helping people get rid of debt in their homes, well, they're not going to comment on that content because that content tells all their friends and their family that they've got debt issues. So they're going, yes, do they want to get rid of the debt in their families and their homes and to be more financially secure? Yes, but they're not going to follow, say, a debt coach or a financial coach. They would rather follow someone who's talking about freedom and security, investments for the future, because that assumes that they have money, not that they've blown it all away and they need help. So you want to position your content in a way that makes your audience look really good. It's not just giving value. It's also making them literally look good to their friends and family.
I love it. That's super interesting in a way I've never thought about it. So if you could hop in a time machine and go back and sit down, have coffee with Rachel Miller when she was just starting that Quirky Mama, MOMMA site back all those years ago, is there one piece of advice, one thing that you've picked up throughout your journey that you would tell yourself at that stage in the process?
Oh, I was like 24 when I started it. I was really young because we got married right in college. And it was a crazy, crazy time. And I taught for like 3 years before I had to quit. So yeah, I was really young. I think I would tell myself to give myself a lot of grace because you're going to make a lot of screw ups. So give yourself grace to use paper plates and to, do takeout if you need to. And a lot of times we give ourselves these unrealistic expectations of where we're going to be and how fast we're going to get there, and give myself more grace in that battle. So instead of beating myself up because something didn't go the way I wanted it to, give myself grace to have some screw ups and get back up quickly. So one, give yourself grace. Two, get back up quickly. And my third piece of advice to me would probably be, Grace, get back up quickly. I don't know. Grace, get back up quickly, probably. Yeah. Let's run with that.
Yeah. Those are two excellent ones because anybody who starts their own thing is going to have to give themselves grace. That's just a fact. But nobody tells you that in the beginning. You see, like you were saying at the beginning of the episode, you see so many success stories and you just assume that they were successful out the gate and that they have their shit together behind the scenes. But in reality, none of us do. And it's one of those things that there's going to be times when it all hits the fan and you just have to be willing to forgive yourself, move on, and like you said, get up quickly. Rachel, I've loved everything you've said here today. And I know that people are going to be listening to this and want to check out more information about you, learn more about you, maybe find other podcasts that you're on and find more content that you're putting out there. Where would be a good place to point people if they want to check out more information about yourself?
You can look up my my Facebook group, and it's called Page Strategies, Facebook Page Strategies. I'm on there almost every week talking about tactics that you can use to grow your audience using the Facebook algorithm to build your business for you.
I love it. Well, that will be linked up in the show notes here. Rachel Miller, thank you so much for joining us today. You dropped a lot of value, and I know that people are going to be loving this episode. So thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you.
Brad, I appreciate you too.
Hey guys, thank you again for stopping by today to spend a little bit of time with me and the rest of the Millennial Mafia. Just a reminder, you can find all of today's show notes at millennialmm.com/podcast. And if you haven't heard yet, I'm opening up my calendar to you, the listeners, to hop on a 15-minute call with me. The sole purpose of this call is to connect and get to know each other. I want to forge true relationships with you so that we can build up an amazing network and community of ambitious millennials who are going to be the leaders and influencers of tomorrow. If you're interested, please just go to millennialmm.com/call and snag a 15-minute time slot. I look forward to connecting with you. Peace out.